As Matt and I review some of my early 2025 rankings, Matt is bringing the haterade and not holding back any punches on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arnay, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Arnay. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, check us out on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is in our bio wherever you're listening or watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right. These episodes are my favorite. This time of year is such an awesome time of year. If you're a fantasy baseball addict like Matt and I, you're already digging into rankings. There's some early mock drafts out there and just a lot going on. So Matt, I sent Matt my way too early rankings earlier today. Matt's been looking them over. I'm not even fully prepared. I don't even know what's going on today, guys. So the episode is in Matt's hands today. So as I pass the wheel over to my brother Matt and prepare myself for the onslaught that I think is coming. Once again, I don't know where Matt's going today. So this is going to be a really fun episode. If you're an avid listener or a new listener, Matt is my best friend, and Matt and I have known each other for almost our whole lives. And Matt's bringing it today. So Matt, my brother, my friend. I don't know where we're going today, but take the wheel, brother.
I hope I can live up to the hype for starters. You're really hyped up this segment, so let's get it.
Oh, you always do. You always deliver. You always deliver, my brother.
I appreciate it. So let's start off with the positives, right? So Dom has channeled his inner me in certain aspects, which is always a good thing. That's how you win. So the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the first overall first baseman ranking, I love that. Okay. I was leaning that way when I started to look at rankings myself. I couldn't see the onslaught. We'll get into the first base rankings after the fact of who I don't like where they're placed, which we'll be circling back to. The Encarnacion-Strand ranking at 8. I love it. It's very intriguing. I like to see it, but first base isn't as sexy as it was a couple of years ago. So, now it's the time to see and kind of grab and place your bets on, who do you think the next young stud is going to step up and be the efficient and be the one. So, the likelihood of that is going to be, a couple guys. And I feel like you've grouped them perfectly as well. Like you kind of put like Vinnie P, Tristan, Casas, and Encarnacion-Strand as, 6, 7, 8. And I like that. I like that as entirely because any of those. Yeah, like any of those guys can kind of pop off and be like, the guy. And like any of these guys also have the ability to finish as like first baseman 1. Honestly, they all have the power upside, the batting average upside, and all that wonderful stuff. So, what were you thinking, ranking them over there?
Well, first, I do want to throw this out there, Matt, and Matt, we'll get the squared away at the end of the episode here. For our avid fans and listeners, you know what, Matt? I think it's time. I think we'll get these rankings thrown up on the Subtext, whether it's tonight or tomorrow morning, so anyone who's listening and is on Subtext can see the rankings and follow along with us. With that being said, to answer your question, we have our top first baseman, I think, kind of goes as follows. You got Vlad, Harper, Freeman, Olsen, Alonso. I think that's been the top 5, I don't really think you're going to see much difference there when you're looking at, experts with their rankings. I think that's going to be the south, whatever your order may be. I think everyone will order them differently, but I think that's the top 5. So when I looked at after that, it's like, okay, You can go with the Christian Walker. He's been solid the last few years. He's got some pop. Josh Naylor had a good year as well. But I wanted to shoot for the moon with my next guys there, right? And I literally think Pasquantino, Casas, and Strand, as you said, could easily find their way into the top 5, if not the top 3. They have the mix of like I said, the batting average, power. They all 3 of them play for whether they're good teams or up and coming teams. I think the counting stats can be there as well. Not a lot of speed from those 3 guys, but you know what? Like I said, young up and coming players. So I'm just going to shoot for the moon after those top 5. That was my thought process behind those rankings there.
Okay. No, I mean, fair enough. I truly like it. I think you have a very bold ranking of where you have Mookie Betts in shortstop. I like it. I'd actually move him down one more. So it's not a pick apart. It's just a matter of a preference. So I'll read it off how Dom has his shortstop rankings going for the top 5. It's Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson, Mookie Betts, Ellie De La Cruz, and Francisco Lindor. So I'd move Mookie down even one more. And the reason being is I like Ellie De La Cruz so much that I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes as the shortstop 1 this year and as probably a top 5 overall player. His season has a lot of relatability to, it almost mirrors Bobby Witt Jr.'s rookie season, where you looked at it and you go, okay, he had like a 250, 260 batting average, just like Ellie. He had the great stolen base numbers and, 25 home runs with, decent, counting stats in the runs and ribbies. And the same kind of team, too. If anything, I think the Reds are almost in a better situation in terms of talent around Ellie De La Cruz than Bobby Witt Jr. So the upside going into this season, I feel, is a little bit higher. But I'm not willing to take him over the other guys, but I am willing to take him over Mookie. I feel like Mookie kind of had, he still had a great season. I'm not going to knock it. But the ceiling factor and the likelihood of, returning on draft price, I feel like we're at that kind of cusp of, okay, do we go with the young talent now and kind of push Mookie down, or do we just go with all reliable and just, wait until the wheels fall off? Well, personally, for me, I want to take the best ability to, best chance at getting a pick that's going to return on it. And I'm like, I think I'd probably take Mookie. Not Mookie, Ellie over Mookie. I think at this point, I think Mookie is now fallen probably down to like 7 or 8 in terms of top overall picks in the first round. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, so with shortstop, first of all, I'm not going to argue with you over one spot. If you want to take Ellie over Mookie, by all means, be my guest. I just think between the 2 of them, it's more of an upside play with Ellie. If you want to play that upside game, Ellie could finish. I really think Ellie could finish as the number 1 player in fantasy baseball. And I don't think that's a stretch by any means. The speed is there, the power is there. Like you said, the teams around him. If Ellie can get that batting average up to 280, and he had 260 last year, so I don't think 280 is a stretch for Ellie. He's in that contention for number 1 player in fantasy. You know what? As I sit and deep dive it, I could see moving Mookie ahead. But you know what? The thing with Mookie is, we know who he is. We know what the team he plays for is, the best team in baseball. They won the World Series. So I don't think there's a lot of guessing here with Mookie Betts, where I think with Ellie, it's a lot more of projection. So yeah, like I said, not really too much to deep dive there. I don't think I'm not gonna argue with you over one spot.
Yeah. And I'm gonna highlight, this is my last positive. The rest is gonna be kind of like
okay.
And
I got to get ready. I got to prepare myself for this now. See, guys, the gloves are off after this. The gloves are off, so you want to make sure you stay locked on with us here.
Yeah. So, like, my last one, I love that we finally anointed Logan Gilbert as a top 5 pitcher.
Oh yeah, he's right there, man.
Dom has officially put him at number 5. I actually feel it. I love it. He lived up to the prospect hype and all the prospect pedigree. Well done. I think I'm gonna have him in a very similar spot.
Yeah, you want to do a little Logan Gilbert talk before we move on, or you want to?
I think we hit the break. If anybody wants some information, join us on Subtext and see why. Shoot us a question over there. But guys, coming up next, I am going to tear Dom a new one on quite a few different spots here. I've already looked at him, had the eyebrow raise and all that wonderful stuff. So we'll be getting into that, and I'm going to be nitpicking too. It's going to be over one spot in some of these spots just because I can. But that's coming up next.
And guys, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, the sportsbook app, gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and get so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner on the NFL. And real quick, we've been doing it every week, Matt, and I really think we've been doing great with this, so we're sticking with it. Just bet against the Giants, guys. Take the under on everything that they're offering on FanDuel with the Giants. It's been a good year to bet against the Giants. You know, Matt and I are from New York. We're Giants fans, unfortunately. But guys, when you go to FanDuel.com, just bet against the Giants. It's that simple, and you're going to win some money. So guys, once again, go ahead, do it. FanDuel.com. Get on it. And then once again, I want to talk to you guys about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. Guys, as this offseason continues to unfold, you're going to rely on Matt and I for dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts right to your phone, including the rankings from today's episode. We did way too early sleepers, breakouts, and busts, so you got details on those, and we went way deeper than the names that we spoke about on the episodes. So, you know, off-season stuff. And then once again, we're really only going to be doing dynasty and keeper questions, you know, maybe a few here and there on YouTube, but really only going to be answering on Subtext. So make sure you get on Subtext for that and just so much more than we could offer in this 30-minute episode. Once again, text message alerts right to your phone on the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. All right, Matt. I don't know if I'm ready. Don't know if I'm ready. I know the haterade's over there. I saw you take a sip earlier. I think he's going to take another sip. If you're not watching on YouTube, you know, watch on YouTube, download on Spotify, download on Apple, listen on all the platforms. Because this is a good episode. And Matt, I see you ready over there. Let's see if I can handle it.
So what the hell are you thinking on ranking Ozzie Albies as low as 5 in second baseman? Explain yourself, bro.
So I do have my rankings up. Let me slide over to second base as I'm ready to take some heat. Honestly, actually, so let's say this. I can move him up at least one, right, looking right off the bat. I think I can get him over Marcus Semien easy. I'm actually down on Semien. I don't know why I have him so high. I'll actually move Semien down a decent amount, I'll be honest with you. So I can get him up to 4. You know, Mookie Betts, I think, is just, we know who he is. You know, it's just so easy to put him at the top and just leave him there. Altuve, I know last year, you know, was a little bit of a down year for Altuve. He's getting a little bit older. I think second base is going to be tough next year. I think second base is actually going to be a spot where I wind up waiting more often than not. And I'll say this to you. I actually like Albies. I actually like Ozzie Albies. I really think, wow, and as I look at Altuve's numbers, the underlying stuff looks really bad for him too. So this could be a situation where I think even Altuve can move down to maybe 4. Ketel Marte moves up to 2 and Albies to 3. I could see that happen. This is why we do this kind of stuff, Matt. You know, this is why we sit here and we do this. And I know you were ready to kill me as I'm turning around and I'm saying, you know what, brother, I see what you're talking about. And I will say this, though, to defend myself. Ozzie Albies did have, you know, an injury-plagued season last year, as most of the Braves did. You know, we actually did the Braves episode the other day, and I was talking about how much I like Albies, actually, if we can get him at a discount, you know, and even if we can't, you know, he's still young, he's still good, a lot of power, you know, that speed isn't blowing you away. So once again, Albies is a guy I expect too much speed from. Batting average on his career is 270. So if you're talking about a 30 home run guy with great counting stats and a 270 batting average, there's a lot to like. I can get him up to 3rd for you, brother. Does that suffice? You want him up higher than 3rd?
Yeah, I want him at 2.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, okay. So let's hear your thoughts on it. Let's hear your thoughts on why we need him at 2.
So, I mean, I can't hold this year against him at all because, one, he got a fractured wrist. And we all saw what that did to Freddie Freeman, like 5 years ago? And plenty of other players, too. When they get a fractured wrist and they come back from the injury, the power zapped, which explains all the unproduction and the lackluster of the whole team, too. That kind of all came in to be like one catechism of just a horrible season for Ozzie Albies and pretty much every Brave that you drafted. So I got to take this season out and kind of just look at the history and just say, okay, who is Ozzie Albies? And you know what we look at? We look at the year before, he was 3 home runs, 109 ribs, 13 stolen bases, batted 280. You go back the year before, and it wasn't as pretty in 2022, but then that was also a 269 game. I'm sorry, 64 game appearance. Not even like a full season. He was again injured. But then you look at 2021, where he again showed the same kind of potential and the ability to have the ceiling of being one of the top, second basemen. The only thing is the batting average was never this high, but he's done batting average at this quality plenty of times over his career. So I look at Ozzie Albies and I look at, okay, how do I see it? Who has the most consistency and the best floor along with the highest ceiling? And that's Ozzie Albies. Ozzie Albies has a great floor that you can kind of count on because, one, the counting stats from the team surrounding, because obviously that's a very talented team. I don't foresee that this season repeating, right? There's going to be a giant snapback for the Braves as a whole. So the counting stats, both runs and ribs, as long as he can stay healthy, should be there. The home runs, they 100 are going to 100%. If he finishes with anything under 25, playing a full season without injury, that doesn't hamper his power, then I will be completely depressed, and this will be a terrible take. But the likelihood of that is not possible. Well, probably about a 1% margin. So we take that and the fact that he chips in stolen bases, and if he hits at least 260, he's already better than Ketel, and he's already better than Altuve, who is declining. Now, we also take that into factor in Ketel, who I do like and who has finally have had 2 consistent back-to-back seasons and kind of has proven, hey, I'm here to stay. But he's doing it at age 30, and the dude also, you blow the wind in the wrong way, and he can go down, and there goes his phalanges like there's no tomorrow. He's done it and disappointed us a few times. Every time he has a big year like this, you're excited to draft him. He comes in and disappoints. Now, this isn't an indictment on Ketel. I'm going to have him as my number 3, which obviously is going to be Mookie Betts, Albies, and Ketel. But Albies, I think, has the best floor amongst the guys after Mookie Betts that you can count on, along with the highest ceiling. And that's what kind of puts him over a lot of these guys for me at the position.
Matt, I'll say this, as we sit here and we talk about second base, and I want to ask you a question. As we sit here and talk about it, it just makes me feel like I want to wait at second base because I feel like all these guys are going to get pushed up because everyone sees the scarcity at second base. And I feel like just Mookie, Altuve, Ketel, and Albies are all going to get pushed up in like the top 3 rounds. And I don't want to pay that price. I'm hoping we can get Albies later, who's been the main guy we're talking about here. I'm hoping he falls maybe like round 6. Where after you've already gotten 2 pitchers, maybe 3 hitters at that point. So maybe he's like your 4th hitter, and that's feeling really good at that point. Are you thinking the same thing here about second base, that we're just going to wait and maybe not get some of these higher guys at second base?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Like, so I always have a target, and it's all based off of like, okay, at each position, it's based off of, okay, who do I want to like spend high draft capital on and who I think is coming in at a value? And this year it just happens to be at second base. And that's Jordan Westberg for me, right? He's going to be my target in every draft at second base this year. Now, we talked about him on the breakout episode. And honestly, like, I think that everybody's going to overlook him because the injury that he had in the second half. So he's actually like the most enticing name on there, because I also think that, like, as much as I'd love to have Jackson Holiday, and I think, his freshman, sophomore-ish year is going to be a good one, I think that the namesake alone is going to drive his price way too high for me. And Westberg is going to be the forgotten one on there. And we're going to be getting him at a steal every draft. And he already proved himself. So I'm all about it.
I'll even say this too. When you look at some of the names that are probably going to go a little bit later, like the Bryce Terangs, the Luis Garcia, Luis Rengifo, even like a Xander Bogaerts, when you see those names going later on, if you need the steals, you can go for Terang. If you want a little bit of mix of everything, Rengifo. If you want some power, even Brandon Lau's out there. So I just feel like second base is going to be the position where you take your specialty guy, whether it's a power guy, a steals guy, whatever it's going to be. If you don't get, one of the top end guys, okay, now when I'm looking at second base, I figure out where I want to execute, whether it's steals, power, I feel like you can kind of find your balance there at second base. And I feel like that's going to be the route that I might take when it comes to drafting second base this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to throw this out there before we hit the break. We're also forgetting about Matt McClain. You know,
There's another
he,
one. There you go.
he's another one that I like this year a lot. That's going to be coming in. He's going to be a sleeper for me and probably a value pick because that's where he's going to end up falling in. The position has a lot of sexy names, and quite honestly, too, you talk about the Bryce Terangs and the Garcias and the Gifos, and I don't even feel great leaving a draft with them as a starter. So, like, I might even wait a little bit longer and just stream the position because second baseman is like this. It's very top heavy. So the highest contributors you got to pay a high price for, and there's a good chance that the high end picks are not going to pan out. They're going to end up finishing at the same kind of pace as these guys, and I'd much rather wait. So it's going to be a good strategy going into the season. So good call on that. But guys, coming up next, I got another one that's going to really hurt Dom, I think. So we're coming up right after this. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, curations make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Game Time has a plethora of great features such as their all-in-one pricing. Toggling through this feature shows you all the upfront costs so that there's no surprises at checkout. Views from your seat, which are absolutely awesome. It's a panoramic view. You could move it around and make sure you're not sitting behind that pole. Lowest prices are guaranteed, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time tickets coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets on Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms again. Create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. And guys, before I say the tagline, I also want to say I've been using Game Time long before working with Locked On. When we got them as a sponsor, I was actually pretty excited. They are one of the best ticketing companies out there. So check them out. Game Time. What time is it? It's absolutely game time. And all right, we are back. And Dom, I'm sorry about this, but I really, really am. And I lost my place a little bit. But yeah, here we go. Why in the hell? Like, seriously, hold on. I got to take a sip first.
If you're not watching on YouTube, Matt's taking a little sip of the Haterade real quick before he tears into me here.
Michael Harris at 14 at outfield.
All right.
Are you like sitting in the back with like a pipe and just like really smoking that? Because I don't know what you're doing there.
So I'm thinking you're saying it's a little too high for you.
Too high. Too high is like the understatement of the century.
Okay. So I know you haven't sat down. Where are you feeling the vibes on Harris a little bit more? Where are you feeling that he belongs?
Like 50?
Oof. I think Matt's found a new person to hate on going into 2025 here.
Absolutely.
So when I look at Michael Harris, right? I still don't think we've seen the best version of him. I don't think we've seen, and as you mentioned, the Braves as a team themselves just really weren't clicking on all cylinders, this past season. And Harris was a part of it, dealt with injuries. He only played 110 games, had 440 at-bats, still did hit 16 home runs and steal 10 bags. I'm still thinking there's another level here with Harris. I'm thinking there's a world where Harris, hits 20 plus homers, steals 20 plus bags, 25 kind of guy. His first two seasons in the bigs as a 21 and 22-year-old hit over 290. So we know that the batting average is, a tool that he brings to the table. So I know that I don't think the runs and the RBIs are ever going to be crazy good for Harris because of that lineup. And I don't think he's ever going to have a sweet spot in the lineup. But you know what? There's a world where Acuna is not ready for opening day and Harris is, leading off again for a while and the runs can be good. And then even as he moves down in the lineup, right, whether he's hitting like 7th or 8th, the RBI could still be pretty good. There's a lot of good bats ahead of him and even behind him. So I think there's a world where You're talking 85 with the runs and RBIs. Like I said, 25 homers, 25 steals, and a 290 batting average. And I think that's a safe place. I think that's a safe place where you want to be with an outfielder number 2. And that's how I'm looking at Harris.
So when you say number 2, the only thing I'm thinking is taking a giant big old dump.
I set myself up for that one, Matt. That was good.
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? We have so many excuses for this kid, and I feel like we're just a bad parent who just keeps not accepting responsibility for their child just not being good. Everybody expects him to be good every single year, and he's like the next Ronald Acuna, but yet he's had 3 years to really show it off, and he's never really lived up to it. Damn injuries, damn anything. If you're that good, you're going to show out even in a little bit. Ronald Acuna did go down this year. Ronald Acuna, left him that opportunity, couldn't even capitalize, and they did shove him all the way back down that lineup. He is not living up to it. And yes, all the underlying stats, I could hear the fans screaming at me. Look at the underlying stats. Average exit velocity of 90.5, barreling at 10% of the time, creating hard contact at 47% of the time. But here's the thing. His launch angle blows. He chases everything under the sun. He's like a dog chasing after every mailman driving up the street. He whiffs like crazy and strikes out like a monster and refuses to walk to the point where he only walked 23 times this year. He is not good. He may have like raw potential to be a good baseball player, but as a fantasy asset, I cannot trust him as the 14th outfielder. Like straight up, like I will take a flyer, which I know I won't because the namesake is too high. I like if he was going at like 50, I'd probably take him, but you're not going to touch him. He's going to be a bust. The fact that you're already ranking him that way tells me that our colleagues on other shows are going to be doing something very similar, making the same excuses we've been giving for the last 2 years, waiting for this breakout. And I'm tired of it. So for me, Michael Harris is not even just like undraftable. He's I cringe every time I see him that high. I actually wait for somebody else to draft him so I could laugh at them.
I will hop back in and say this. A little bit of harsh criticism for Harris there. He's only 23 years old, 24 next year. Outfield thins out, man. It really does. I mean, even as through my top 9, usual suspects, I finish off, my top 9 with Corbin Carroll. And even Corbin Carroll himself had a down year last year. Even though he finished strong, still a down year last year. The batting average was nowhere near we want it to be. I think those 9 guys are still solid. I'll keep Carroll in there. After that, it's a lot of question marks after you look at the top 9 outfielders. So I really think you could shake the next all the way down to have Mike Trout at 20. And we know who Mike Trout is when healthy. I think up to that point, you could shake those guys up and mix your outfielder 2s around. However you want. Maybe there's a couple names that fall out after that you'd sub in there. But like I said, with Harris, the batting average has been there his whole career. Up until last season when he dealt with injury. Has power in the bat for a small guy. And he has some speed too. So, you're talking about a guy that's in a really good lineup, power, speed, batting average, looking at potentially a 5-tool guy. I know you like to say excuses, but, like I said, when you're starting to get down to, like I said, 15 to 20 outfielder, you kind of just got to pick your guys and, throw your flag in them. And I think we'll agree to disagree on Harris, but Matt, can we sneak in one more? You got one more for the crowd before we head out?
Yeah. Let's put it. Where do I want to go with? I'm excited here. Okay. Oh, this is hurting me.
I believe it. If you guys aren't watching on YouTube and you see Matt's face looking at my rankings, he looks like a parent who just got a test and their son got like a 42 on the test.
I think Matt's got something. I wouldn't say a 42. You're at like a 55. You're like, a D-. But so Jack Flaherty at 11. Like
okay, so and I think I haven't really touched my rankings too much since the playoffs. Flaherty's had an absolutely abysmal playoffs. We also don't know where he lands. That's going to be a big thing with Flaherty going into a free agent off season here. Did have a very good regular season. I could see myself moving Flaherty down, probably going to be more in that SP2 range. Even if he does go to a good team, it's going to be tough to rely on him as an SP1. I do like him, though. I do like Flaherty. We know, he's been a guy that has the talent, has dealt with a plethora of injuries throughout his career, starting to seem like he might be healthy. I don't want to waste too much time here on talking about my side of things, Matt. I don't know if you want to add anything else. We don't have a crazy amount of time here.
All right, I'll give my 1 minute take on it, and we'll get out of here. I look at it like this: Jack Flaherty has not been good for baseball until this year because it's a contract year. So what does that tell me? He's only playing this well to get paid, and then he's going to fall and ride into the sunset with his bag of cash. On top of that, he's not have been an ideal person of health. He is the Alberto Mondesi of the pitchers. It is atrocious. So yes, is he talented? Absolutely, but I look at him like this. He does not even have a great pitch mix. He literally relies on the fastball most of the time and doesn't really mess around. He's tinkered with it a little bit and kind of given a higher percentage to a couple pitches, but not enough to say, okay, he's really changed up that pitch mix. So when it comes to Jack Flaherty, I just look at him like this. I am not touching him unless he's an SP4. I know I'm not going to get him, especially where I think he's going to land is probably Baltimore, and which would be a great landing spot. But at the same time, I don't foresee him being able to return on the value. So with that being said, I'll leave us all in a cliffhanger. And soon, when I finally finish my rankings, which God knows when, Dom will be able to return the favor. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this podcast, and get us going here. But guys, have a great rest of your day, and check out our boy Sully over at Lockdown MLB for all your MLB updates. Peace out.
See ya.